my turn to do a deck profile. Whew. Did my thing already. Hello Bandai reps and anyone else watching. I'm doing a deck list submission here. I just went 3-0 at the locals. This is Dane Reichenbach. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day, whatever it is you're doing. I just love blue very, very much, and I want to talk about the deck that I played, basically the way that it works, and then honestly I do believe it is probably the best blue deck going into the next format, that or like Gamma maybe, but truly I just think that it's really, really strong. So we'll start with the leader. The Reboot SS3 leader has on the front side that you can only charge up to 6, both sides is a permanent. You can swing, and when you attack, you actually put a card from your hand to the bottom of the deck to ramp one card out of your life. So unlike most leaders, not only is it a -1 because you are not drawing a card, but you're also critting a life into your energy, which is really, really difficult to deal with if you're playing against like early hand control decks. So like in theory, Cooler should be a hard matchup, but I haven't lost it quite yet. So either way, you're ramping a little bit, usually only one time, and then at 4 life you'll flip, draw 1. On the back side, when you attack, you go to 20k, right? Big number. It hits the unisons. That's probably the most frequent use of it. Also removes battle cards when they have been attacking into you. Really great pressure like that. At the end of your turn, though, the whole point to play this deck is that you switch 3 of your energy to active mode. So you get a whole turn, and then you get to pass to your opponent with 3 extra energy. So there's a lot of blue hate that can hit some of these things, but realistically, it knows if it's actually good enough. There's a lot of ways to remove them. So we'll just get right into the main deck. So it's a blue deck, so you should be playing Baby Hachiyak. It just wins game after game after game. You know, it ends the turn. So the next best blue card in the game, Majin Buu, Agent of Destruction, Unison. Super great in this deck. If you go first, you swing, ramp once, and then on turn 3 you charge to 4, which allows you to play Buu, and Buu stabilizes you. 20k double, draw a card every turn, switch an energy to active mode, so you're not only doing 3, you're doing 4 full energy between the 2 of them, and it's a really strong combo in terms of getting more specific floodgates as well as more counter options. So we'll go into those once we kind of get there, but Buu is just for sure the best unison in the deck. It goes crazy. Really powerful card. 3 Super Saiyan God Trunks, or Super Saiyan Trunks God Sealing Technique. I think over time this card has gotten a lot worse. Everyone's playing cards either with Deflect or they're playing them for 1, and when they play them for 1 and you discard it, it's basically doing half of a Ribrianne, so it really doesn't do a whole lot in terms of like completing the game or really advancing it. It's really good for like bombs, and you know there are specific like secret rares or cards that are supposed to be risky. That's what God Seal's good at. Likewise, it stops floodgates on your opponent's turn when you finally start pushing back. So it's a good card, but it's definitely one of the first ones that you charge or you bottom deck, because realistically you only need to resolve 1 in the game maybe. The main reason to play the deck is the ridiculous floodgates that you get access to while not actually doing anything. So we'll start with the main one that really got opened up. So Super Saiyan God Goku, the Miraculous Transformation. This card is a super good floodgate for a lot of matchups, right? So Deflect, Unique, Triple Strike Barrier, a whole lot of red boxes that say this card is good. Counterattack, you negate the card. Basically from your opponent's turn 3, you can play it for 3, and then their battle cards can't attack your leader. They can attack Buu, and they can attack, you know, your own battle cards. But 20k backed up with like a Senzu Bean on it or a different floodgate that you might put into makes it a really big threat, and it's consistently used for like clearing your opponent's unisons because it takes 3 markers off, right? At the end of the game, you could counter Monkey and hold this Triple Strike is a really great way to end it. Just a really strong card in terms of floodgating your opponent. Some decks are really easy to deal with it, you know, but others have a really hard time dealing with 20k barrier, so 6-drop too, so it's not very light. Probably the best floodgate in the deck that I should run it for maybe, but it's kind of hard to find the space for it. It's Vegeta Ready to Rumble. When it negates the attack, and when your opponent attacks, they have to crit an energy. They have to put an energy in the drop area, and that's what that 4th energy is extremely good for, is that this just ends turns, right? Goku like makes it harder for your opponent to hit you, or the Gohan when we get there, you know, makes it so your opponent has to give you some resources, but Vegeta hits the board and Vegeta ends the turn, because energy is such a finite resource in this game that getting rid of one, it has to be their kill turn for them to be willing to go through this, especially because he's a blocker, Boo's got a block skill and a bottom deck skill, extremely powerful combo. This just ends in 5 turns against most matchups. Also, it's a 20k 4-drop, so most of the counter plays that are used to counter floodgates do not hit it. The last one is Gohan Baby's Minion. So originally you would pay 3 and you'd be like tapping out, so you have to sit behind like a potential D-Magic or another Zeno super combo, but now you're not actually tapping out to do Gohan. Gohan's really great at the end of the game, because when your opponent starts running out of resources, right, Gohan is harder to put through, whereas at that point they've already got energy that they might be willing to get rid of, or they may have already drawn their barrier removal options for these guys. So Gohan's really strong. He's Servant 25k single strike. But realistically, one thing that's really big about him is the fact that he gets around Koitsukai too. These other ones do get hit by Koitsukai, right? They're 20ks, but Gohan's permanent makes him a 25k from the second he enters board, and Koitsukai will miss checking on Gohan. So just use these. You buy yourself turn after turn until the game is over, because you have drawn more than your opponent. Some more reasons to play the deck are SS4 Vegeta Rise of the Super Warrior. This card in my deck says draw 4. Typically you'd be able to potentially ramp, but in this version you're just going to draw 4. It's a 30k swing, and then it restands at the end of the turn, giving you even more defense after you floodgate your opponent. Extremely powerful card. Usually the first one, right? When you're in this deck, you do go down on cards, and you only awaken to draw 1, right? So you're actually pretty low on hand size, but what happens is that first Vegeta catches you up immediately. It's a draw 4, right? You probably had a Boo out, you might not have charged that turn, so you got to keep that card rather than charging it, and your leader drew on swing, right? So that's like 6 or 7 cards every turn that you just get to keep. Vegeta just lets you draw 4 more, and that by the time the second Vegeta comes out, you're stabilized, and if you play a third Vegeta in the game, you just should not be losing. You have way more cards than your opponent, right? The 30k basically represents 1 damage in most cases. So blue is a little bit harder because they can obviously like God Seal it, but if they're God Sealing it, then they're not God Sealing your floodgates, and Vegeta gets the stick. The other 6-drops, or the other 6-drop I play is Roshi Maximum Muscle, Critical Barrier Dual Attack, and then when he's played, he bottom decks 2 of your opponent's battle cards. At the end of the turn, you draw 1. So if your opponent has trouble dealing with Barrier, or you know that the game, right, if you've been stalling them a little bit and you need to crit them down rather than giving them all the cards in their life, Roshi's great for that, especially if they don't have an answer to it. You can just start drawing cards every single turn. 25 dual crit basically represents 2 crit damage every turn, or a whole lot of cards out of hand. Very solid. Removal is just great. Super good card. 3 Super Saiyan Vegeta the Interceptors, one of the best new blue cards in the game. You just get to play it, bottom deck 2 of your opponent's cards. A lot of times it's used as like, this little section here I call the bridges. These guys get you from that 4 energy. Typically you're only ramping 1 time. You're at 4, and then you have to charge to 5, charge to 6. So that turn 5, you don't really have a play, and Vegeta is really great in that turn, right? You can remove some of the threats they've been building up, and then also swing for 20 into Unisons or into Leader to apply that first bit of pressure. He's a super great card. He plays for 3, so right, if you need to, you can resolve 2 of him in 1 turn to clear up a big board if you're at 6 energy. The other 3 energy play is Android 18. Just draws 2, so this is the preferred one most of the time, but Vegeta realistically just has a better skill, so you have to recognize that Vegeta's just going to do more in your average game. Plus, later in the game, Vegeta's better. Android 18 is only good exactly on that turn 5 when you don't really have anything else to do. 2 Kabbas, another kind of in that middle ground, right? You're probably not going to have the cards required on that 5 energy turn to be able to play it for 3, but you can go ahead and pay it for 5, draw 2, get a dual attack, and then still block, again adding more to that defense. Every blocker that you add onto the board means that your floodgate gets 1 more effect off. So, extremely strong card. It's also the barrier removal of the deck, right? You can play it on your opponent's turn for 3 to allow you to get rid of cards like the Slug Super Namekian. You can get rid of the Trunks and the Trunks Vegeta deck. Very powerful. You can get rid of Poutine. A whole lot of things that are really pesky, and this guy deals with them. To Tapion Calamity Challenger, use them on turn 4 or 5 when you got the chance. Otherwise, you can go ahead and when you're at 6 energy, you can pay the 1, get the Spirit Boost off, and then use your Sensu Beans to get that 1 back and get your 6 turn play or your 6 energy play off. 20k double strike, draw a card for 1, really strong. To Calamity Challenger, if you ramp on turn 2 going first, you can actually play this right away because it's you at 3 energy, not your opponent. So you can just play it, get that draw, get a 15k blocker out, or establish some pressure. Really great card. At the end of the game, same deal as Tapion, you can pay 1, then Sensu Bean, then go in with another 6 drop. To Isekai Keeping Watch, just a wonderful card against like a lot of these yellow decks specifically. Yellow having access to a 3 energy counter is really annoying, so if I can make sure that during my turn that they're going to have to like consistently lose cards to riposte or to be resolving any random effects or anything like that, she really is bothersome. And then obviously she just draws a card, so really great to have any cantrips in the deck. 2 Baby Golden Avenger. Counter is a good effect, and we get it for 5 instead of for 3, but we still draw a card, we bottom deck, we barrier. Just an excellent thing. This card makes people scared to play many of their big effects against me because I can play under that 6 energy threshold if I'm willing to play my 3 costs or the Kaba, right? I can go ahead and just gain some a little less value to keep up 5 or 6 passing into my opponent's turn. And then I can sit behind this to get rid of any big bomb they might have, right? All the new Secret Rares that have Deflect, bottom deck, get rid of it. You know, Vegeta, they want to pay 4 to try to get rid of my Boo and my board. Okay, bottom deck it. Extremely powerful card. My super combo split is 2 Vegeta, bottom deck 1, draw 2. Just typically the best super combos in the game, and Zeno's. I don't have control over what ramps out of my life. Zeno is really important at grabbing cards out of there if I like ramp a Mega Hachiak or I ramp a card I might need. Likewise, when you have such a low hand size at the beginning of the game, there's going to be a lot of times that you have to make tough decisions on what to charge. So you're going to be charging cards that you might only see 1 or 2 of in the game, or things like that, and Zeno just lets you grab those back. Also just lets you tap out and then go back in. Really strong effects. 2 Realm of the Gods, Beerus Destroys. Just basic defense, pay 1, draw a card, 10k, and then potentially remove an extra guy. Or if you have a big threat on your opponent's board you need to remove for 1, just go right ahead. And then 10k so you can use it as part of your end of game dump. 4 Sensu Bean because you're playing a blue deck and it's super good defensively. It's not, this is probably the blue deck where it has the least application because on my turn I'm typically tapping all 6 energy immediately so I can't even pay the 1 cost. But on my opponent's turn I can use it to great effect, make my leader a 20, make my Goku Floodgate a 25, make Boo into a 25 if I think they're going to be swinging into it that turn. A lot of options in terms of defending myself. 4 Dimension Magic. If anyone's got a judge, I'm looking for 1 more. Just restands energy, super great. Option you can counter out of your life. Just the blue staple since this day it came out in set 5. And then the last card's in the main board, 3 Child's Army Reinforcement. I think every deck should be playing 3 or 4 token negates. It just stops 2 attacks. It's so powerful. I can actually pay for it a lot of the times in my deck, which is really, really good. So I'm not even like picking up life, just stop 2 attacks with 1 card. Really, really good. Just do your best to not go down so low, because there's more burn effects than ever in the game. So that's the main board, right? In my sideboard, we played a best of 1 today, or pre-side best of 1 today, but we have Dirty Burst. Just counter, the counter play is so strong that you get to draw and then prevent your opponents from 7 or more attacking. Sell and U7 are 2 of the most popular decks in any given room, so it's important to have this in your main or side somewhere in your 65. Just a solid card, and it can counter attack too, right? There's a lot of decks where it's good. GT too is a really popular deck, 8-drop. Strong. I also restand, so I don't even have to like sacrifice like my turn to do it, so I can just sit and pass with 4 up. Really strong card. 2 Intoxicated by Justice. This is for the anti-blue hate. So there's 2 different types of blue hate, right? The ones that hate it when you restand on your turn, so Borgos, Whis. There's several others. Kami is one of them, Raditz. So all of those guys hate that. You can get rid of them with this, or you can get rid of them ignoring Barrier for the ones that hate like D-Magic and things of that sort, right? So that would be Mai, Chi-Chi, Gohan, Xeno, etc. Just get rid of them. You can also just use it in a lot of matchups. I basically always pull this in because you just have to assume they're pulling in their hate. Is that you can just choose a 1-drop and then just get to draw a card and switch an energy back to active mode, so it's a free get out of an attack. Right? A lot of the times you don't really care if your opponent adds the card back into their life because you'll kill them eventually. It's about stabilizing yourself, and once you're stabilized, every Vegeta just represents so many cards in hand and represents the damage you're going to get through. 2 more Beerus Destroys. Most aggro matchups, you're totally welcome to just sit behind these, right? Especially if you know they're going to be playing Koitsukais or Broly Crowns, things of that sort that remove stuff. Just a really powerful card. If you know that your deck relies on some sort of 1 or 2 drop, you can bottom deck them. Or if you need to remove a lot of stuff, maybe it's like Sin Shenron, you would pull these in. The biggest and most important tech, Goku. Vegeta is one heck of a good card. There's a lot of cards that are just like, they feel like they're supposed to be uninteractable because of like all their keywords, but this card gets around most of them, right? You can just go ahead and play it, and then bounce anything ignoring barrier, and then draw a card. So it gets around barrier and deflect. The only thing it can't remove are cards that can't be removed during your opponent's turn. You know, if you're thinking like UI Divine Presence or the Golden Frieza Divine whatever transformation, and like this card is just really powerful. Again, I'm restanding 4, so I can afford to actually play this card. Then a lot of extra copies, 4th Ready to Rumble, just any aggressive deck, or decks that draw a whole lot that don't care about Gohan, or they have counterplays for Gohan, Vegeta will always come in. A 3rd East Kai for the yellow matchups. There are a lot of decks too, you know, random red decks that might try to play stuff, or just any number of decks that try to play cards on your turn. East Kai is very good hate for them. A 3rd Monkey, you can pull it in against, again, U7 or any deck that you think is going to play Vegeta. Yellow and green are really important to pull this card into, right? They have so many good floodgates. Just getting this effect off is really powerful. A 4th God Seal, I know I was I was kind of writing it off earlier, but there are some matchups, you know, if you think like Red Jiren or something, you just can't let that 8-drop hit the board, so you need to pull in the 4th Trunks to make sure that it doesn't. A 3rd Kaba for the barrier hate. Yeah, that's realistically it. Comes in a lot against like Trunks Vegeta or any deck that plays Super Slug. And then the 1 of black card is a Jiren Survival of the Fittest. I think this deck's hardest matchup is the Blue Mirror a lot of times, because while I do get to draw basically as many cards as all of them, I don't have access to Kale and Android 17, which are much bigger bombs than mine are. And right, they're like full forward wipes, or they reset the whole game's tempo, and they just play a completely different world from me. And so having this to defend myself against Android 17 is really crucial. I think Kale can be played around right. I can sit behind a token negate, I can try to floodgate. But Jiren, I have to be able to Jiren Android 17 so I don't lose my hand. The risk of the 1 of in life, you know, coming out and then doing it, just I have to take that risk sometimes, and so it's worth it. But that is my Super Saiyan 3 reboot deck. I really hope that people can start to respect it. You know, it does have some tougher matchups. I think really realistically, hyper aggro is really tough sometimes, and I think hand control can be really difficult because you don't get the sideboard options of like Dabura and things like that. So I hope people can learn to play the deck. It's hard to stabilize, hard to play. One of the most difficult decks to play, but it's so much fun and so rewarding once you get there. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Once again, this has been Dane Reichenbach. Have a good one. Yeah.